The xenobiology lab on Kepler Station hummed with the sterile precision of 1,000 automated systems, each one monitoring the impossible specimen that floated in the containment field before them. Dr. Maya Sharma stood with her arms crossed, dark eyes fixed on the crystalline structure that defied every known law of biochemistry. "Don't touch it," she warned, not bothering to look at William Chen as he leaned closer to the observation panel. William had heard that tone before, the one that meant Maya had run every simulation, cross-referenced every database, and still couldn't explain what they were looking at. It was the tone that made his fingers itch to break protocol. "I'm not touching anything," he said, though his hand hovered millimeters from the haptic interface. "Just observing." "You're thinking about it, I can tell." She was right, of course. After 3 years as her research partner, Maya could read him like a poorly encrypted data stream. But this thing, this organism they'd recovered from the methane seas of Titan, was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. The specimen resembled a geometric flower, if flowers were made of living silicon and pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that seemed to encode information. Its structure existed simultaneously in what appeared to be multiple quantum states, flickering between forms too rapidly for the naked eye to follow. Only the high-speed sensors could capture the transitions, revealing something that shouldn't exist, a life form that operated on quantum coherence at room temperature. "The readings are stable," William observed, studying the data streams. "Biochemistry markers are. Well, they're still nonsense, but consistent nonsense." Maya finally turned to look at him, exhaustion evident in the dark circles under her eyes. She'd been awake for 36 hours straight, ever since the recovery team had brought the specimen aboard. "Consistent nonsense is still nonsense, Will. We don't know what this thing is, how it functions, or what it might do if we interfere with it." "That's why we're scientists," William replied, already pulling up the isolation chamber protocols. "To find out." "No," her voice was sharp. "That's why we're careful scientists. The quantum fluctuations alone could destabilize if we introduce any external variables. We need at least another week of passive observation before." The specimen pulsed. Both of them froze. The bioluminescent patterns had changed, shifting from the regular rhythmic waves they'd observed for the past day and a half into something new, something that looked almost like a response. "Did you do something?" Maya demanded. "I didn't touch anything." But William had done something, he realized. He'd activated the isolation chamber interface, and the electromagnetic field generated by the haptic display had apparently reached the specimen. The containment field was designed to be impermeable to matter, but certain wavelengths of electromagnetic radiation could pass through. They'd never tested whether the organism might be sensitive to such signals. The crystalline structure began to unfold. "Shut it down," Maya said, her voice tight with controlled panic. "William, shut down the interface now." He was already moving, but his fingers hesitated over the emergency shutdown. Because what he was seeing was impossible, and impossibly beautiful. The specimen wasn't just unfolding, it was reorganizing itself at the molecular level, its silicon-based structure flowing like liquid mercury, forming new configurations that his pattern recognition software was desperately trying to categorize. And then it spoke. Not with sound. Nothing in the vacuum-sealed containment field could produce sound. But every sensor in the lab lit up simultaneously as the organism released a burst of modulated electromagnetic radiation across dozens of frequencies. The translation algorithms, designed to detect patterns in any form of communication, went into overdrive. The main display flickered and text began to appear, "Contact acknowledged," initiating biological exchange protocol. "William, I swear to God." I know." He slammed his palm on the emergency shutdown, but nothing happened. The specimen had already interfaced with the station systems, its quantum processing capability allowing it to bypass their security measures as if they were suggestions rather than barriers. Maya was at her own terminal now, trying to manually override the containment field. "It's adapting," she said, her voice carrying a note of scientific wonder despite the situation. "The electromagnetic signature, it's learning our encryption protocols in real time. This thing processes information at a quantum level. It's not just alive, it's a biological computer more advanced than anything we've built." William watched as new data flooded their screens. The specimen, the entity, was transmitting its genetic code. But genetic code implied DNA or RNA, the building blocks of terrestrial life. What scrolled across the display was something else entirely, a blueprint written in quantum states, where a single gene could exist in multiple configurations simultaneously, expressing different traits based on observation and environmental conditions. "This isn't DNA," William breathed. "This is quantum biology, true quantum biology. It doesn't just use quantum effects, it's built on them." "Which means it's unstable," Maya countered, still working frantically at her terminal. "Quantum coherence can't be maintained in biological systems at this scale. Decoherence should have destroyed any quantum superposition the moment it—" She stopped. They both saw it at the same time. The entity had just transmitted the solution. Scrolling across their screens was a complete mathematical framework for maintaining quantum coherence in biological systems, not through isolation from the environment, but through active error correction at the molecular level. The organism didn't fight decoherence. It incorporated it into its biology, using environmental noise as a source of information and energy. "It's showing us how it works," William said, awe creeping into his voice. "Not just what it is, but the fundamental principles that make it possible." Maya had stopped trying to shut down the interface. She was reading now, her scientific curiosity overriding her caution. "If this is real, if we could replicate even a fraction of this, we'd rewrite biology as we know it," William finished. "Quantum sensors that operate at body temperature, information processing at speeds that make our computers look like abacuses, medical applications that could manipulate cellular processes at the quantum level." The entity pulsed again, and more data flooded in. This time, it wasn't just genetic code. It was a complete historical record, encoded in quantum states that contained more information than should have been physically possible to store in such a small structure. The translation algorithm struggled, but fragments came through. Images of a world with seas of liquid methane, where life had evolved not on carbon chains but on silicon matrices. A civilization that had learned to encode their consciousness into quantum superpositions, effectively achieving a form of immortality through constant quantum observation of their own neural states. "And a warning." "Wait," Maya said, her voice sharp again. "William, look at this section." He pulled up the data she'd flagged. His blood ran cold. The entity wasn't just a specimen. It was a seed, a biological terraforming device designed to spread quantum-based life throughout any environment it encountered. In the methane seas of Titan, it had remained dormant, waiting for the right conditions. But here, on a space station filled with carbon-based life and electromagnetic technology. "It's not attacking," Maya said quickly, reading his expression. "Look at the protocol. It's asking permission. Biological exchange. It wants to share its genetic framework with us, but it's waiting for consent." William looked at the crystalline structure floating in its containment field. It pulsed gently, rhythmically, like a heartbeat, or like a question. "If we say yes," he said slowly, "if we accept this exchange, it will fundamentally alter what it means to be human. Quantum biology isn't just a new discovery, it's a new category of existence." "And if we say no," Maya countered, "we turn away from possibly the most significant breakthrough in human history. We condemn ourselves to remaining purely classical beings in a universe that operates on quantum principles." They stood in silence, watching the entity pulse with patient expectation. Every warning protocol in the station screamed at them to refuse, to maintain the barrier between human biology and this alien quantum existence. William thought about the warning Maya had given him. Don't touch it. He'd touched it anyway, metaphorically speaking, and in doing so had initiated contact with something that would change everything they understood about life itself. The decision isn't just ours to make, he said finally. This affects all of humanity. We need to contact Earth, get authorization from. The entity pulsed one more time, and a final message appeared on their screens. Choice REQUIRES understanding. Observation changes the observer. And William understood. The moment they'd observed the entity, the moment they'd tried to understand it, they'd already begun the exchange. Quantum biology didn't respect the neat boundaries humans drew between observer and observed. By studying it, they'd already invited it to study them. Maya reached out and took his hand. Whatever we decide, she said, we decide together. William looked at her, then at the entity, then at the impossible data scrolling across their screens, the blueprint for a new kind of life, waiting patiently for their response. He touched the interface. Yes, he said, show us how to see the quantum world. The entity bloomed like a flower made of light and probability, and in that moment, Maya and William Chen became the first humans to truly understand that they had never been purely classical beings at all. They'd just been waiting for someone to show them how to look. The laws of biology hadn't been rewritten. They'd simply been read correctly for the first time.